Hi, I'm Khleif. Each and every week, I record an interview with a thought leader that I know you're going to get a ton of value from. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. Now, to make sure you get the latest information, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's get started. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I am thrilled that you're here. And you're going to get tremendous benefit and value from the dynamic guy that we're interviewing today. His name's Spencer Hilligoss, and Spencer is in over 3,200 doors and has a full-time job still. And so we are going to dig into how he has done that and see if we can mitigate any excuses you may have about getting there. Welcome to the show, brother.
It's really an honor to be here, Rod. I've been listening to your podcast for the last few years, and of the many that I've tried to listen to, I got to say that you bring an inspiration to me, and you bring an inspiration to many others. So thank you for everything you do for the community.
Oh, what a kind thing. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for saying that. So, like we do, then one of the first things we do is I ask my guests just to kind of give a little bit of a background on their story. And so let's start there. How'd you get into this business? How'd you get started? How'd you get through over 3,200 doors with a full-time job? So let's go there.
I mean, that sounds crazy when you ask it out loud, even for me to hear that. So I'm 13 years into a career in Silicon Valley, high-tech companies, that has been what I've done. And so 5 different software companies. Somehow I got talked into going over to a real estate tech company about 4 years ago by my mentor. And I joined, and suddenly I'm surrounded with people that are all flippers primarily. These are single family home flippers, entrepreneurs. I've been building sales and operations teams for 13 years. And at this company, I suddenly find myself getting licensed as a loan originator. I find myself training people, hiring people, and doing what I do, but through the lens of real estate. And I was sitting there going, well, I certainly don't want to become a flipper. That's just not aligned with my strategy. But I do want to do something actively. And I know I've been building up what I'd like to think is good startup equity. When you're working these tech companies, early stage, there's a lot of selling that goes into people joining those with the notion of saying you're eventually going to join the next Google or Facebook.
Right.
Unfortunately, I mean, most people, based on the numbers, you can play the odds, but that is not real equity value until those things actually materialize. Right. So I joined this tech company, this real estate tech company, and I get the bug.
Wow.
I get the bug bad, and I start going off and building that residential real estate portfolio.
So you started with houses.
I did, and we still actually have a very modest residential portfolio. So we actually have about 7 properties we own outright. Started reading voraciously about multifamily. All the numbers made sense. And now we focus on multifamily self-storage and mobile home parks. But that was really the journey. It was, hundreds of podcasts, many of which were yours, devouring the books and squeezing out the time in between meetings at nights, put our 2 young boys down, at the end of a long workday. And eventually getting to the point where my business partner and wife, and we can talk about that later, how we figure that one out. That has led to where we are now. And it's still, I wake up every day kind of in awe of the fact that we're on this wild ride. It's not always easy, but it's absolutely worth it.
Right.
And so you can get me talking about this stuff.
So you are still doing, you're still at a real estate tech company doing loan origination or managing teams that do that, and doing this on the side. So let's go right there, because people are going to be like 3,200 doors mostly as a general partner as well. I mean, it's easy for somebody to, go in and be a limited partner on a deal and just put equity in on a deal. But you're on the GP side on I think 80% of those deals you said. So that involves a lot of work. So as it relates to you and your bride, how do you divide and conquer? Do you have complementing skill sets? Do you kind of both do the same things? Can we get a little micro on that piece first?
Oh, you better believe it. I'd like to say we have some perfect framework, and I'd say it's evolving, but there are complementary strengths for sure. I have done most of my work in my corporate career on business development, sales operations, operational building. So I know that side, and I've hired hundreds of people. I've trained hundreds of people, including leadership all the way down to individual contributors. So that's what I bring is management as well as leadership and scaling in biz dev. My wife is the marketing brain, and she knows that side. She's a brand manager. She's still managing her corporate career. So she is super smart when it comes to thinking about a strategy and how to think long game. And she'll look at a operational plan, break it down into its component parts. She's also great with the numbers. She knows how to read a P&L, a profit and loss statement for a business like that. And so I'm so deeply thankful that she can check me when I get overly excited. I would say that there is typically in a couple, one more risk adverse and one more risky. And I would say that we're a good complement there. I'm typically the one who's a little bit more risk taking. She is the one who hits the brakes on me when I get very excited about an idea. So
is she more analytical than you?
You know, that's actually funny. I would say I'm reluctantly analytical. So I do end up going deep on a spreadsheet. I would say we actually both are analytical.
Okay.
That's one area of strong overlap.
Okay, because sometimes you know I've seen some matches made in heaven where you pair up an outgoing personality with an introverted analytical person, and I mean it's a rocket ship.
Totally.
So, but you both have both skill sets. Very interesting. So, let's go back to the first multifamily deal that you were a GP in. Can you speak to how that came about? Maybe go a little micro on that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not buying in Silicon Valley or you're out of state. Are you in more than one market? What was the first market?
Yeah, man, that is such a scary first moment. But when looking back on it now, you're like, wow, that was actually not that bad.
Right.
So that was actually in DFW in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had gone through 3 different real estate coaching programs. And so I had signed up. I believe in coaching wholeheartedly. I'm willing to pay for it too.
Right.
So I had gone through 2 programs, and I felt like I had learned at that point underwriting. I had underwritten lots of deals.
Mm-hmm.
Second one was basically market analysis. So like looking at the deal, looking at the market. And I just want to call out this pre-work beforehand because I think it's not like I stumbled into it. It was a pretty deliberate thing, but those 2 pieces were critical. The third coaching program was when I actually hooked up with a coach who would also let me drive along with him on a deal. And
nice.
That was great. Yeah, that was it. I'd recommend the same for anyone else. You know, if you can find a person that's willing to let you ride along and then do the work in the service of learning, that's where it's at.
Did you utilize this person as a sponsor on your first deal, or you know, tell me, you know, let's break it down even further, because so many people obviously start with a sponsor that's signed on Fannie Mae debt before, for example, if you're going Fannie Mae, or just bring the you know, the resume, the balance sheet, or the experience component to a deal. Is that how you did your first one, or how'd you make it happen?
Yeah, the first one I was just playing to strength, and what I was going to do, what I mean by that is I have a deep network out here in Silicon Valley of people that I've been working with for the past decade. And so they looked at me and they're like, well, what value can you add? And I say, I'm highly organized. I can do a spreadsheet. I can also manage a communication infrastructure. So I'm really good at making sure people are informed with reporting. People know what they're actually getting into in the deal. And that throughout the life of the deal, they get really great updates. And so what we can actually do is let me take investor relations, and then I'm able to bring in the equity capital. So that was the complement that I could bring. And it's also realistic, because diving in to do everything from asset management all the way over to acquisition and everything in between, that's a lot of chunks to bite off when you're doing your first one. And so what I felt is I could actually complement investor relations, do all that, and be able to bring the equity capital. So that was really the focus of that first one.
Okay. Now, are you
Cool.
are you playing an active role on the GP side in either asset management, due diligence, all those pieces as well?
On the due diligence, yes. On asset management, no, not yet. I'm deliberately trying to kind of hold off on that part, because there will come a time, I would like to think, in the next roughly 12 to 18 months, where I will pull the ripcord and just go full-time active, because this is such a passion for me. So that's that point, I would like to get more into the asset management side. But for right now, It's all a diligence, a lot of underwriting, and then also, of course, just investor relations at that. So the front end of the front end in terms of the underwrite, operational review, and then investor relations throughout the life of the project, project readouts, all that good stuff.
Okay. So tell me, how do you manage all this? You have two small boys, did you say that?
I do. Yeah, 2 and 5.
2 and 5. Holy
right
cow.
in there.
Wow. And you guys both have full-time W-2 jobs?
We do. I don't know why we did all this.
And you have 3,200 freaking doors. So give us give my listeners some strategies for managing that kind of a load. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, so this isn't for everybody, but this has been working for us. What we do is we take our big goals. We actually take the time to do that first and foremost. And that means my wife and business partner, Jennifer Morimoto, and I, we carve out the time. It's got to be a weekend usually when the kids are napping. And we sit there and we block strategy time. We say, what are the big goals? We talk about those goals. We don't move off that topic. It might take a weekend or two just to get down to clarity on what is our plan. Like, what are we going for here? We then take those goals, break them down into smaller time increments. You go every 6 months, you go quarterly, you shrink it down further. You say monthly, you then say weekly. You get the idea? You go all the way down to that weekly level. And then we say, what are the top 3 things, if everything else fails, that must occur this week? Like what has to get done this week? Sometimes that list is like one thing. And if that thing is like a project or it's a relationship that we need to make sure lands well, that is what I'm going to give everything I have to. And I'm going to go into my calendar. I'm going to gut the whole week. I'm going to look at my meetings and move everything I can move, including stuff that has other people going to it, and just let them know if I have to break it to them, like, I'm sorry to move this meeting out. I really have to get this other thing done. And I think that's the point, Rob, where I used to get gun shy. And I think a lot of people do, because it's socially awkward. You got to go over to other people and say, hey, I'm sorry, brother. I gotta back out of this meeting, or I got to move it to next week. And they'll say for a moment, oh, well, that's a shame. I wanted to talk to you, but yeah, we can meet next week. That's the moment of awkwardness where people get held up from actually going and being ruthlessly prioritizing and moving forward on the big goals. And so there's that. I'd like to make it sound like it's a perfect system. It is not. I mean, there was a day about a month ago where we were sitting there and we were just wiped. We were sitting there going, like, we have been scheduling. If you look at our family calendar, we both use Google Calendar, and we stack that thing down to the minute every day. And it's that might sound stressful. That's like freedom to me. I think of that as clarity. I also think of that as, when I say schedule, I don't mean meetings the whole time. People will look at their calendar and think, wow, I have all this great time. I can get all this work done. But what they don't do is they don't say, I need 2 hours to go underwrite that deal. And I'm going to go block it on my calendar on Thursday from 9 to 11 a.m. That's that step that evades most people. And I strongly encourage people to try that out and see if it's a fit for them, because that was the game changer for me, Rob.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I teach a weekly planning process, and it's really resonating what you're saying with me, because the last step is to block time. Right. The step before that is to identify, like you just did, ruthlessly prioritize the Pareto principle. Whatever, on every list, there's 10 to 20%, get you 80% further, to identify those things and then block time for them. So we're very aligned on that, and you're proof positive that it works. So I'm going to use you as an example that process works. I love that term, ruthlessly prioritize. And guys, the other thing that I want you to take away from what Spence just said is clarity. You've got to have clarity. So you said you might take 2 full weekends to define exactly what it is you want. You have to know exactly what you want. Otherwise, how the hell are you ever going to get it? Clarity is power. You got to have clarity. I love that. And I love the fact that you're hammering home the need to time block. I'm actually I've got this student that I interview live that I'm coaching. She was somebody that I did a contest, and she's a single mom with 4 kids, and she won the contest.
Wow.
When she told me she babysat kids at home to to have enough money. That's my mom's story. And it was boom. Okay. It's you. You're the one. So anyway, I'm interviewing her tonight. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about, because she's got 4 kids. One's 1 year old. She has got to master this time blocking piece. So we're going to actually discuss it tonight, which is why that it triggered that memory. So let's talk about, awesome lady. Real excited to help her see a success. And when that happens, no one is ever going to give me an excuse again. Okay. Because then that's the reason I selected her. So what are, you told me what your superpowers are and your wife's superpowers and that you complement each other. Talk to me about if you were coaching someone to get into this business, what are some of the qualities you'd look for in that person? What does it take to do this?
I'm an introvert by default. I don't know how the hell I got into a sales leadership career. That is a weird one for me, even today. By default, I don't just wake up in the morning and want to go out and be social. I think that is point number 1, because I didn't used to understand what it meant to be in a relationship business. So can people learn to really cherish the relationship with other people? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, every person has that capacity. And so I bring that up first and foremost because it's been such a big deal to me. And like, you can wake up, need that coffee to get excited for the day. Maybe I certainly like coffee, but I would say I get excited to come and talk to you. I get excited to go and talk to my team. I get excited to go and learn about someone's background.
Do you have to force that? Do you have to pre-frame that do you have to like shift that in your head consciously, or is it now natural? That excitement.
I would say most days when the purpose is clear, example would be for Madison Investing, for my business, I would say I wake up in the morning and I go, I am fired up to talk to anyone about this. Like, it is just, it is so much fun and challenging and engaging. It takes no coffee at all. And that comes down to me for purpose alignment. That is, we have found something that we can not only contribute to, but it will ultimately be able to give back to others throughout the impact we're trying to make. That is all the coffee that I need. Now, if it's something that is for let's say, I do enjoy my day job. I wouldn't be there anymore if I didn't like it. But there's days where I'm like gearing up. Of course, absolutely. Like in essence, and this is just my way to frame this, W-2 work is working towards someone else's vision, typically. And if you think of it that way, I've gotten behind and sold and excitedly, rallied people behind other people's visions for 13 years. And I do that even now today, because if I believe in it, I will do it. But it's not always as natural as a purpose that you have settled on with your life partner, with your wife, with your spouse, and then you wake up together and you say, let's go kick ass today. That doesn't require any more inspiration for me, Rod. So I would say, hopefully that rant made sense.
No, totally did. And I know you weren't prepared for any of these questions, so you're really landing on your feet well. What are some quotes that that motivate you? Any come to mind?
I mean, certainly in the game of the relationship building in real estate, it's I'm going to butcher it, but it's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, no question. Absolutely the truth. This is a team sport. I also liked what you said about, go slow to go fast. It's almost a martial arts thing, I think. And you learn something slow and then you become very, very fast at it. I love that phrase. What did you have to give up to get where you are right now, my friend? What did you have to give up?
I had to give up my Xbox, Rod.
Oh my God, that's painful.
What a hardship. In hindsight, it's funny how we all mature. I do like a good video game. I don't really use it. And that's mostly my kids and focusing on the right priorities there. I'm also a musician. So I used to play in a bunch of bands, used to play guitar. I haven't given it up. I got them hanging on my wall. I still have a big amp, which I would love to use again someday. But for right now, most of the musical performances I give is Wheels on the Bus to a 2-year-old. So that is a big audience.
Red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish. Yeah, God.
That's right.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, that's hilarious.
So I would say I don't rock out with metal anymore.
So let me ask you this. I've got a lot of aspiring investors that listen to my show, and you were once there, and I'm so grateful that you gave me a shout out about listening to my podcast. Thank you for that. But what are you going to tell those people that are where you were when you first started listening and you hadn't taken down a deal yet? What advice would you give those people?
The advice I would give is that there comes a point where books must be translated to action, and that playing it out in your head, like just go through the thought exercise for a moment of what's the worst that can happen in two different scenarios. Worst case scenario number one, you read 30 books, you go out, you start talking to people that you're really nervous about talking to with your newly acquired knowledge to go take it through a test drive. And maybe you say something wrong to one person and they call you out and they say, oh, you know what? I don't think you explained something like cap rate correctly. I don't think you explained that correctly. And you have that moment of social awkwardness. That is just that moment. The worst case scenario is a passing 5 minutes of awkwardness. That's all that you're fearful of. And so I would say that's one outcome. The other outcome would be, think about what happens worst case scenario if you don't do that. Like if you just read the damn book and you do it over and over and you sit on the knowledge, you do absolutely nothing with it, you feel like you're moving forward, you're capping out, man. And I really do think that that's it, is that the worst case scenario is you don't do anything with it. The best case scenario is you go out, you stumble your way through a few conversations, maybe you get a couple spreadsheets wrong, but you can do those in safe environments. You can do that with people that will actually give you real, hopefully compassionately direct feedback, and they'll actually be there on your side. Most of the real estate investing community I've encountered, Rod, are great people.
They're givers. They're givers. Yeah, no question. Occasionally you'll meet somebody that's a narcissist and just not a pleasant person to be around. But most people truly want to contribute. In fact, contribution is a basic human need. And in fact, I'm actually giving 1,800 backpacks. My foundation is doing 1,800 backpacks with school supplies this Saturday. I just did a Facebook Live about that. But I mean, so if you're listening, guys, success without that is not success. Success without giving back in some fashion is not success. And, I'm not going to derail this conversation by explaining why, but the bottom line is you need to be giving back in some fashion. So let me ask you this. Tell me about a mistake or a failure you made in this journey to 3,200 doors.
Whew. God, the first one that comes to mind right off the bat is you can choose a relationship or you can choose a deal. And there's those moments where maybe you've been talking to a new potential partner, and all of a sudden you get really excited about closing on this project with them. Maybe they're not ready for it yet, and you decide to nudge them. You send that one email too many. You send that one text too many. And in hindsight, I did that. I did that to someone. It was a few years ago, and I look back at that now, and I kick myself. I try not to live without regret, but I call that just a learning. And I think what I've learned since then, Rod, is it's not worth it ever to push and to feel that if you're working with someone, if you're working with a team, you're working with an individual as a partner, you ever push them to a point where it's a short-term win. And I think it's all about making sure you're totally aligned, you understand where they're at, and you end up in a place where you're like, wow, that was really cool. I'm glad we made that decision together, even if it's something that's going to end up materializing a year from now. So I look at that and it's like, gosh, I wish I could have gone back and not hit send on that email. Wow.
That's I'm really glad you brought that up, because guys, this business is a long-term game, and you've discovered that, Spence. And in fact, one of my friends, Glenn Gonzalez, I just wrote the foreword for his book. I'll have him on when it's on Amazon. He started out as a maintenance man, and now he's at 5,000 doors, and his book is From Maintenance Man to Millionaire. But one of the things that he talked about, I have a mastermind, and he's in my mastermind. I had the first version here at my house, my compound in Florida, but at that, he talked about how he met a guy like 10 years, or maybe I guess probably 12 years ago, and just befriended him. And it was a guy that owned 1,700 doors, and he helped him with something, did something that really showed his integrity. And now he owns those 1,700 doors. Okay, so you know, and this really is a small world as well. This multifamily space, you think it's a big world, it's really not. And so, you know, you've got to look at these relationships as long term. He also gave the example. I'll give you another one of his examples where he was buying a property and the chiller went bad, and it was $100,000 chiller. And he could have made the broker pay for it, but he sucked it up and did it because he so valued that broker relationship. So that's another extreme example of what you just described, you know, and remembering that this is a long-term game. So I'm really glad you brought that up. So what would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever received around this business?
Oh, man. Whew. Yeah. I got to think about that one for a sec. You know, I guess the best advice that I would give, or the best advice I've ever received, would be about immersion. You know, I think it's about saying, go all in, don't make it a hobby. If you make it a hobby, you're going to skin your knees.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, because it allows me to say what I'm going to say next. And that is, for God's sakes, come see me at one of my boot camps if you haven't done this business, because that is total immersion. But as a flip on what you just said, you're either in or you're out. There's no halfway in. You don't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, it's like the Latin word or Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. And a great example is if you're attacking the island, you burn your ships because you're going to take their ships home. It's done. And that's total immersion. Yeah, I love it. Love it. I'm so glad you brought that up.
That one. And that means, like, just to give a real example for the audience too, Rod, a couple books I've read even kind of propose this. I would say if it sounds extreme to someone, I can see why, but I am so deadly serious about its effectiveness. If you want to get started, let's say you're already in a day job, you're in a W-2 career. If you want to make a switch and you're serious about pursuing this path, go look for jobs in the industry for your day job. Like, find a place that is aligned to that industry. Yeah. Maybe even it's a downgrade, and play that out. It's like, maybe you're a VP in a software company. Maybe you are doing marketing. What if if you find out, I want to go into real estate, I want to be active. I got advice a while back that also said, don't quit your day job immediately. Do it in phases. Build up your revenue over time outside your day job. So there's two things you get from doing that. Ignore the damn title. It's not about the title. Go find a place that will pay you to learn, and just humble yourself. Like, I got humbled so hard by so many tough experiences in my corporate career, mentors that just hold me deeply accountable. And so I try to operate in an egoless fashion, but you got to get over the title and just go find how to get close to the work and get paid to go to school. Because that's basically what it means if you want to go into real estate. I stumbled into that by joining a real estate company that was a lender. So suddenly I'm sitting there staring at these deals and looking at how to get a profitable flip. And I'm managing people who are loan originators. And I'm getting licensed, and I'm sitting there going, I know people who are making more cash than I am on their day job, but I am learning invaluable skills. And ultimately, I really recommend that strategy for people.
I love it. And guys, there's so many things you can do. You can get into appraising. You can get into property management, real estate sales, you know, go work at one of the big brokers. You know, there's so many ways you can immerse yourself in this business the way you just described. So love it. A lending like yours, you know, just
totally
awesome. So what's a question that I didn't ask that you wish I had, Spence?
Oh, man. When is the right time to get started?
Yeah. I usually end with that one, and I didn't with you. So yeah. Well, let me do it. Let me ask you a different one though, that kind of ties into that. And that is, you know, if you were going to tell yourself, you know, I don't know how old you are. You look like you're in your 30s, but let's say you told your 36. Okay. If you were going to tell your 22-year-old self something about this business specifically, you know, would you have started sooner? What would you tell yourself? What would you know, what might be different if anything? Maybe nothing.
No, and I'll be really specific with this one. It's probably going to hit home for a few folks. I was living in Denver, Colorado in 2009. I believe, I'm sure the data heads out there will debate me on this one. I saw some stats as recently as a month ago that said single family home values in Denver, Colorado was the biggest delta positively out of any city in the United States over the past 10 years.
You had to go there. You had to go there. Do you know how painful what you just said is for me? You probably have no idea. I used to own 500 houses there. Okay. It's my biggest, that's one of my biggest regrets. If I still own those damn houses, they'd be free and clear. And I'd be netting $500,000 a month, minimum, $500,000. Yeah. But, you know, and the only way I justify it is I wouldn't have met my wife if I hadn't sold them. So, you know, that's how I justify it. But why'd you have to use that freaking example, Spence? Anyway, finish your story. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, I had to interrupt because it's, yeah.
Or that means it's the best topic to bring up, right? It's the best learning. It's the best learning for people. So a funny story on that topic too, Rod. I moved back out to Colorado after I went to school there originally in Boulder, went back there years later. And it was also a time when my wife took me back. My now wife took me back. She was living out there, so that helped. But I was sitting there renting probably one of the nicest apartments, thinking I was some kind of hot something, you know, and I was about 200, 300 feet away probably from a couple places I could have bought right. I just bought at an excellent deal, excellent deal. I bought nothing. And, you know, at the time I was contributing to my 401k at my day job. I was driving to work in a car that I probably shouldn't have purchased and all these stupid things. And if I look back, that has to be it. I try to live without regret, but I will say that it probably doesn't compare to yours. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I'm really glad you brought it up, and you know, it is what it is, but yeah, that did hammer home for me. It's funny you said Boulder. I was just there last weekend. I had my mastermind. You know, I've got a mastermind with hitters. There's over $5 billion in assets in there now. And,
wow.
And our excursion was to hike the Flatirons on Saturday. We meet on Thursday and Friday, and then we hike the Flatirons on Saturday. And we're going to meet next in Sarasota. And on Saturday, we're actually going to do my basket brigade, where we're going to feed 1,500 families for Thanksgiving. So that'll be fun in November. But anyway, well, listen, my friend, I really appreciate you being on the show. You've added tremendous value. And I'm really glad we got to know each other, because I've really enjoyed having this chat with you. So I know that we're going to stay in touch, and thank you.
It's been an honor, Rod. Seriously, I've been following you for years. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, brother.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you listen to podcasts, join me on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to those podcasts. Just search for Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing.